Hey guys, what's going on? Hope everybody's having a good day out here today. And man, it's really a nice fall day here in Southwest Missouri. We had our first cold snap last night. Even though the temperature is pretty nice right now, I'm not looking forward to those cooler nights and cold temperatures on the way. But that's just part of fall fishing anyway. What I wanted to do today is I want to talk a little bit about sort of a trend that I've noticed. Sort of have a conversation on the fact that the power of social media as it applies to bass fishing, particular bass fishing pros, and what it's doing to that. There's a metamorphosis that we're right in the middle of. It's been going on for a couple of years, and I sort of wanted to have a conversation about it and get your guys' opinion on it too. So, hey, just real quick before we get started, just want to give the weekly reminder, if you guys are interested in becoming members of the channel to help support the channel a little bit further, just on my main YouTube homepage, go to the About section, click on Intuitive Memberships, and if you guys are interested in getting extra videos every week that aren't seen by the public, access to my personal email address, you can become a member, and it's a great way to support the channel. Also, tomorrow night, tune in at 7 p.m., or excuse me, tonight, tune in at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Fish the Moment Live YouTube channel. And Johnny and I are going to break down as far as what it costs, the reality of the costs of professional fishing. So it should be an interesting time. Hope you see you guys tonight at 7. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this, what I'm talking about as far as social media and bass fishing. To put it quite simple, social media has basically undermined and cut out how valuable fishing pros are, as far as marketing tools. And it's basically getting it to the point where they're becoming more and more irrelevant all the time as far as what they were, for the past 40 years. For ever since tournament fishing started back in the 70s, the early 70s, there's been, a marketing strategy involved around professional anglers promoting products. That was all you had. You had, professional anglers that would excel in tournaments, and they would get notoriety in fishing magazines. They would be seen in seminars and boat shows and that type of stuff. And that notoriety that they got from success in tournament fishing would put a value as far as on what sponsors would pay them and how valuable they were to companies to promote those products. And that was the way it was from about 1970 up until about 2008, 2019, 2020, just a few years ago. But now, guys, I'm telling you what, the last 2 or 3 years, it has completely changed with the advent of YouTube and Facebook primarily, to the point now where professional anglers just don't have the kick that they used to. They're just not as important for companies to sponsor. And what I want to say about this is, if you take a Bassmaster Elite tournament or BPT or whatever like that, and you have an angler win a tournament in one of those particular circuits, okay, basically the only value that has to a company is through the impressions that win generates for that company to bring awareness to the brand that they sell. And for example, in the case of Bassmaster or MFL, they don't have as big of a YouTube or social media following that a lot of individual anglers have. So when you have an angler that wins a tournament, even if they're marketed through the television and advertisement within that organization, it still does not have the impact that other YouTubers have or other social media icons that are bigger. I mean, for example, if you take some of the younger YouTubers out there that nobody's ever heard of, that have never been professional anglers, but these guys have anywhere between 500,000 to 1 million YouTube subscribers, or even more, even 2 million YouTube subscribers. The amount of eyes that actually see the products that these guys are using it dwarfs what a professional angler can create for a company. And, you know, companies are waking up to that. They see that, and it's totally transitioning, you know, the way that marketing dollars are spent. I'll use an example of Hank Cherry. I mean, Hank Cherry, you know, he's accomplished something that is arguably, you know, one of the greatest feats in pro fishing. He's won the Bassmasters Classic back-to-back years. There's been a couple people do that. 20 years ago, he would have been at the pinnacle of the promotional and marketing value within the company. But now I don't even hear anything about it. I mean, I follow bass fishing, but I haven't seen any residual kickback from those particular 2 classic wins. But then I'll see some YouTuber out there that has 600,000 subscribers, and, you know, they've got, you know, hundreds of thousands of views on a particular video. They've got thousands of likes. And, you know, if they talk about a product, if you talk about the bait that Hank Cherry won the Bassmaster Classic on, or the boat he was in, or whatever, it cannot compare to when some YouTuber with 500,000 subscribers talks about a bait or shows a bait that they caught a bunch of fish on a day on the water. So, you know, where does this leave us? You know, the thing about it is undeniably what it does right off the bat is it devaluates the pro angler as a marketing tool. A marketing tool for a pro angler now has changed in the fact that the 2 main factors that determine how valuable a pro are is how many miles they drive with their wrapped boat and truck, because that's like a rolling billboard, and how big of a social media presence they have. The actual tournament performance that a pro angler has is minimal as far as the impact that it has on the sport. Now, it may have, if you have some guy that wins a tournament on some new or some obsolete lure, yeah, it can create some short-term sales, you know, for that particular situation. But in the bigger sense, in the sustainable long picture, it just doesn't make that big of a difference. Another thing that has changed with that is the advent of wraps on a truck. I mean, you take, you know, take my truck right here, this Bridgeford truck right here. I mean, if I drive this thing is like, basically it's like a rolling billboard. And if I drive this thing for 2,000 miles to a tournament, I'm getting passed by hundreds of thousands, maybe approaching over 1 million people on a cross-country trip with that. And it doesn't make any difference if I'm a pro angler. They could care less who's driving that truck. It could be just some guy that's never caught a bass in his life. But just the fact that you're driving this rig, you know, and it's getting seen by all those eyes across the country, that is what has completely changed professional fishing. It's not, those are the things that are valuable in professional fishing anymore. It's not performance. And, you know, I respect and I appreciate, you know, guys that fish at a high level, because I know how difficult it is. But the sort of the sad reality of what's happening in our sport is it just doesn't make that big of a difference anymore as far as making money in the sport and generating income from sponsors. It's business. It's nothing personal with those guys. That's just the way that business is morphed. And the more impact and the more presence that social media has as far as being an influencer and selling products to the public, the more that the performance and the tournament aspect of fishing is going to continue to go downhill, which it has already. So anyway, that's just the changing reality of the world we live in. You know, you sort of have to adapt to it or get left behind. I mean, in an ideal world, you know, they'd have all the money they would want and would never have to worry about any sponsors, but that's just, you can't do that as expensive as tournament fishing is. So anyway, guys, just wanted to throw that out there. Hope you guys are doing good, and we'll talk soon. See y'all later.